episode 161 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Catherine
and Kristen, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all the drama, adventure, and romance we can find. Hi, Catherine.
Hey, Kristen.
So it's our last week with Quicksilver, so we thought that we would mention the fact that they are actually releasing Quicksilver as a film. It is being adapted into a movie. And we're excited.
We're excited. It is a movie, though. It's not a series?
Correct.
Okay, cool. I didn't actually look super into it, but I just saw it somewhere and was like, of course they are.
Yeah.
Anything popular at all, they're like immediately trying to make more money off of it, basically.
Yeah. So,
and like, sorry, that sounded very jaded, but I don't even mean like the author is making money off of it. I mean like production companies and stuff are like bidding to get the rights to make the money, and it's like just keeps happening to books, and then either nothing happens or like something shitty comes out, or like something that like needs to get into its stride, which is like I do have that fear for this book.
Yeah, I do too. I will say that so I'm just looking up some quick stats. Quicksilver is being adapted by Netflix. So like overall a good choice. Mm-hmm. Like they tend to do well with their adaptations. Like, you know, Bridgerton was a book and they adapted that, and that is doing amazingly well. Yeah. Now, how much do you want to attribute that to Netflix, and how much do you want to attribute that to Shonda Rhimes? I don't know. But, you know, it has done well. Shadow and Bone did
well, better than I expected from the book, to be honest. It got 2 seasons, and it was because of the crows. So
yeah. Now I will say again, those are shows, not movies, so slightly different. However, I will say that looking at the figures here, so there was a bidding, like it was bid upon, and which Netflix won the rights to, but they did not just bid on Quicksilver; they bid on all 3.
Oh, good.
Books in the trilogy. So,
it's promising.
Yeah, and they paid 7 figures apparently for the rights to all 3 films, all 3 books actually, but
yeah.
So, and like I also feel like movies have a little bit of a quicker turnaround. Like,
yes,
it's not going to take as much time to film and to produce, film, and edit one movie as it probably takes to do like an 8-episode, 45-minute series.
Exactly, yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. And apparently, too, just to add on, Elizabeth Cantillion from the Cantillion Company is on board to produce. And that person, hang on, I'm getting it, is known for producing Persuasion. That's what I got.
Okay.
Anyway, but yeah, so it was apparently a huge bidding war. So yeah, we're very excited. I do feel, though, like, as much as I'm excited for it to be a movie because I feel like it's better, we'll get it quicker. I do feel like there's so much to it. There's a lot that's going to be cut.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things that totally would have been better served as a show. Like, you would have been able to fit more in.
I agree. The one good thing about a movie, though, is, like, most of the backlash I've seen about Quicksilver has been how shitty he treats her in the beginning.
Yes.
And at least that, like, you won't have to watch episodes of that and then try to get back into it. It's just one movie, one, like, 2-ish hour thing, and you'll get past it. So, I don't know. I think that might work in its favor. Because if you're watching multiple episodes, if you're watching multiple episodes and it's like he's just being a piece of shit the entire time, it'd be hard to come back to. Or like those moments, like if you ended an episode and she was like, go find my brother, we'd both be like, nah, I don't know if I want to keep watching. So I think a movie might work well, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to be hopeful until it comes out and is not good, if that's what happens. But I'm always kind of hopeful for adaptations, because...
I know, me too. I'm always hopeful, and I feel like I'm always disappointed.
And, like, I feel like we've lowered our expectations, because we've done this so many times. But I can't lower them any more than they are.
But at the same time, I also feel like they've gotten away from the types of books that we enjoy. They've gotten away from making adaptations on those. Like, what's the last one that we really were like, ooh, Vampire Academy? That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but I just mean that every book that is popular now has an adaptation that is apparently coming out. It's like Fourth Wing has one that's coming out, and ACOTAR for a while had one that was coming out, and we're like, where are they?
Yeah, it's like they're like, oh, adaptations, then we never see them or hear from them again.
Exactly. So, like, that's why whenever we have these conversations, I'm like, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it is definitely a we'll see sort of scenario, only because of, will they actually come out with it or not? I don't know.
Well, and it's the same situation it feels like Sarah J. Maas was in with that, like, this book is a trilogy, so, like, 2 of them aren't out yet. So you can't really do something with characters just because the producer wants to if it doesn't match the storyline that the author is trying to write.
Yeah.
So I do kind of worry about that too, because producers are pretty shitty. Sometimes. I don't know. Obviously,
that we know from all of our experience.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
so many.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, I don't have any inside knowledge on it. Just what we've heard about, like, changes being made to books are often because of the production.
Yeah. And I do think that was sort of that was the problem with the SJM, is that she was, it really bothers me that she was labeled as difficult to work with, when really it was, guys, just let her at her script, man. Like just let her at it.
I do kind of love it, though, because, like, we should all be difficult women. If that's what... She's not being a difficult woman. If she was a man and it were, like, a man's books, and that was the way it was going, it would have been fine. So it's like, I don't know. I just think that all women should strive to be difficult in the lanes that they should be.
Yeah. Stay in your lane? Okay, well then let me be an expert in my fucking lane.
Yeah. And listen. But yeah. That's a different that's a different podcast, but you know, one that we believe in.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
A bit off track, but
we're excited for it regardless. It would
be nice to get some updates on all of these adaptations. Like, we haven't seen any casting for Fourth Wing either.
No, we have not.
Like, when we just looked up this book, some of the news was from December. I know it's only been like 3 months, but you'd think there'd be a bit more now. I'm just wondering where the rest of this stuff is.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know, part of the issue, too, is I'm like, movies just come out and I don't even know they're coming out because I don't watch cable anymore. But, like, we're on Instagram, TikTok, all those things, so, like, we would see if there were big news in one of the book releases. Yeah. Like, adaptations. But yeah, anyway, I guess that's kind of it.
Yeah. We're excited, but we're hesitant.
As always. We have faith-ish.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too much.
Maybe.
God, I wonder, like, I'm always like, who are they going to get to play these people? Because I actually looked up some fan art, and I was like, that's not how I pictured her. Because obviously he's on the front of the book. Like, we should know what he looks like. But I don't know why she wasn't really what I pictured. And I was like, oh, I guess I just missed a description somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of expected her to be not, like, I'm looking at some now.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I didn't expect her to be as pale as she is.
Living in a world with two suns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sort of thought she would be...
At least tan.
Yeah. But I guess that's just the, you know, whitewashing that our world tends to stick to.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's another rant for another day.
We like to get into rants that we didn't even try to.
Oh my god.
What?
I just passed one bit of fan art that I was like, ugh. It was not at all what I thought he, like, they really took liberties with him.
Oh, okay. Well, like, I just feel like he's on the cover. You know what he's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, just a heads up. We're not a spoiler-free zone, and things might get saucy.
Yep. They might.
I'm pretty sure they do. So, it's our 4th week, and our last week with Quicksilver, which I keep wanting to call Kingfisher. And it's just because it's 2 words shoved together, and it's like, ooh, it's a struggle. But we're reading chapters 20 to 45, which is the end. Last week...
Did you say 20 to 45?
I did, because that was wrong there. 34 to 45. Imagine 20 to 45.
I'm like, thinking in my head, I'm like, I had 40 to 45. There's no way you had 20 chapters.
Yeah, no.
Unless they were a page each.
Yeah. No, it's 34. I just didn't update this number here, and
it's fine.
Nailed it.
It's fine.
Yeah, 34 to 45. Yeah, so last week, there was a battle.
Yes, a fun one.
Yes. Saeris. Every time I say her name, I hesitate. It's fine.
Yeah, because you and I say her name differently, actually.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully if people have caught on and know that we're talking about the same person.
Yeah.
It's fine.
The female main character made a sword last week, too, which was a big production, and it became a god sword, and Lorith got it, and we love Lorith.
Yeah, she actually has figured out... She's figured out the Quicksilver. Like, she's figured out what she has to do in order to get it to bond with the rings. So...
Yeah, she just has to ask it what it wants.
Yeah.
Which was a carrion discovery or thought, which is just kind of funny. And then there was a battle, and she fought a bunch of feeders and was, like, way better than she should be, and we don't know if that's, like, something within her, or if it was the sword, or what it was. I feel like that's something that might come up in books. Like in the next book or something. And after that, Everlane was captured by Malcolm and was bitten, so now she's got, like, hours before she's either going to be turned or turned into a feeder. And obviously they all want to save her, so we're gearing up for a rescue mission, trying to figure that out. And then Danya, I think we say her name differently too, but that's fine. Danya was a total bitch and came in and, like, punched Lorith in the face and then was like, that's my sword, which, like, to be fair,
it is.
Yeah, we, like, empathize with that part of it. It's just everything else she's been doing. But, yeah, so she tried to take the sword, and it just obliterated her entire hand. Because, like,
it's not
Saeris
her sword
touched...
anymore.
Yeah, Saeris touched Fisher's sword, Nimrel, and burnt her hand because it's not her sword. It's not her god sword to touch. So she touched this new god sword and just lost her entire hand. And then instead of being like, let's tourniquet it or like get her somewhere, they were like, and now we're gonna kneel in front of Saeris and like put our blood to her chest to like, thank her for her fighting.
Honor her as a soldier or a warrior.
And it's like
Danya's just like, hello.
I'm bleeding out.
I'm missing a hand here.
Yes. So we basically ended, and Fisher was the last one to honor her, and he actually said her full name, and it's the first time he's ever said her name, ever. Because he's always called her human, alchemist, Osha.
Little Osha.
Yeah.
After the butterfly.
Yes. Which we'll get more on. So we start this week, and she's just like, Fisher said her name, and she's like, what the fuck? She's like, that's just, it means something. And then Danya says something in Old Fae, and like, just spits because she can't go honor Saeris because she's gotta be a bitch. It's just stupid. I just don't know why.
Why the girl has to be the bitch.
Yeah. And, like, if everybody else gets honored their first time fighting, wouldn't she honor Saeris too? Like, I know she doesn't have a hand, but she doesn't need to spit on the ground to be
I think it's a matter of the humanity, like, because Saeris is a human. She is not happy.
Yeah, which we get into in a second. So I guess Fisher opens a gate and Saeris goes through and she gets in the dining room, which is where he had the gate land. So she just sits at the table in her normal spot, which is to the right of the head of the table, which obviously we all know means something. And then Danya comes through and tells Saeris that she better move out of the seat before the others see her or she's going to be embarrassed. And we're like, of course. Mm-hmm. And Saeris is just kind of like a bit flippant about it, trying to get more information because she's just kind of thinking like, oh yeah, multiple people have like reacted when I've sat here. So she asks what the big deal is, and Danya says it's reserved for the lady of the house, aka Fisher's wife. And Fisher's wife is supposed to be a high fae born into an old house, and it's offensive to like that he's even let a human sit at his table.
Oh my god.
At all. So we're really getting into the like her prejudices, I guess, against humans. But like, for her to sit there is even more of a slap in the face, basically, is what she's saying. So she tells her to move. But then Ren comes through and says she's perfect where she is. And Danya's just like, asks why she can break rules. And Fisher comes through then and is like, no rules are broken. And if they had been broken, they aren't any of her business. Which I think is the key, most important fucking thing here.
Yeah.
Like, it's... just fuck off.
Yes.
Danya's shocked, and she's just like, everybody knows that Fisher fucked her, but she's a human. And then Ren just says she's honorable, brave, and the most powerful alchemist in an age. And who is Danya to say that Saeris and Fisher don't belong together? And Saeris is just like, what do you mean belong together? She's like, this is too fast. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And she kind of expects Fisher to be like, whoa, that's not what's happening. Because, you know, he's kind of been a bit shitty every now and then. Yes. But Fisher just says that his personal life is not up for discussion. Which is fair. Lorith comes through then, and he brings Carrion with him. And Danya's just annoyed by all of the humans. And she says, even if they are pretty, which is the best. But then she starts to faint because, like, she's still losing blood and doesn't have a hand.
Yeah. But, like, I'm also just a bit frustrated that, like, she was losing blood that entire time. And she decided to antagonize Saeris. Like, that's what she decided to do with her energy?
Let's argue over a seat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is this going to be a... Does she have feelings for Fisher? Because I don't need that in book 2. I don't want to deal with that bullshit.
We dealt with that in Iron Flame, and we were not happy about it.
No, I'm never happy about it. But anyway, Fisher then, like, tells Lorith that he needs to deal with it. And he's like, do I really? But he goes over and catches her as she falls. And I guess just takes her to the healer, which makes sense. And then Fisher tells Saeris to work on relics. And Carrion's just like, did you hear that? She called me pretty.
Because he has one track mind.
And Saeris is like, you cannot want to fuck her. And he's like, I think he says something like, angry females make my dick hard. Yeah. I'm like, fair.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe he better not end up with her. I know I said this last week because I don't want any of them to end up with her, but she cannot end up with Carrion.
Who?
Danya.
Yeah, I mean...
No, because if he takes his rightful place, we can't have that.
No, that's right.
That's all I mean. They can fuck multiple times, but I'm not having, and I'll read it and I'll enjoy it. But yeah, so we kind of jump scenes and Saeris is talking to Quicksilver. But it tells her it doesn't want anything or to be a relic. And she's like, fuck. And Carrion asks why she doesn't just force it, but she refuses to. And that, I guess, reminds him of Fisher forcing their bargain on her kind of thing. And he asks if she's forgiven Fisher. And she doesn't really want to talk to him about it because she's kind of afraid that he's going to turn it around and make fun of her about it. But he says he won't. So she says that she does forgive him because, like, they talked about it and everything he made her do was for her own safety. And now he knows not to do it again. And I'm like, yes, technically. But also, I'd still be pissed, I think. I guess he's hot, though.
Yeah.
That's kind of the thing.
Difference. He's hot, so it's sort of okay.
Yeah.
It's not actually okay, people. But
no. It's very much not okay. But she's like, I'm fine with it because I have feelings for him now. Like, which is, I get why people compare this book to the ACOTAR series. Because that's kind of, like, similar in that way. Carrion then says that he understands the bath now. And he says he must have smelled like her. And then Fisher wanted to get the smell off. But she doesn't agree or disagree. She just says that, like, Fisher keeps his secrets. And then, when she says that, the Quicksilver asks for a secret. So she obviously learned from the last time she made a deal with the Quicksilver and asks if she'll remember the secret and if it will still be a secret. Because, like, obviously those are very important things to know before you tell a sentient metal a secret. And it says that, like, yes to both. So she says she doesn't want to go home. She wants to go back and get her brother and Eelroy and come back. And it accepts that answer and says that she must save the Kingfisher. And she's like, what? But then it, like, molds to the ring basically immediately. And it says that it is token, key, and relic and shield. And tells her to seal it with blood. So she, like, cuts her finger and seals it to the ring. And the ring absorbs the Quicksilver. So she doesn't have to remake them, which is good. Like, we kind of worried that she'd have to make pendants out of them or something. But it just, like...
absorbs in. But, like, so I guess my question is, so she has to do 15,000 of these.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is that where is she getting all the... So, like, she needs a drop of Quicksilver for each ring? Where's she getting all the Quicksilver?
No idea.
Like, she literally has the most minuscule... She said that she had the tiniest amount to work with.
Her issue was the silver.
I know. Because... No.
Kind of both.
It was kind of both, because she found scrap silver around, but she still said it was a very small amount of Quicksilver as well.
Yeah. And we do get later this week that there is some Quicksilver in the armory.
Oh, okay.
They just didn't give to her yet.
No.
Reasons.
Plot reasons.
Yeah. But I'm like, what is she gonna, like, what is she giving away for all of these rings? This is one ring. This is the only ring we see her make this whole book. This is the only relic we see her make. I don't think we see another one.
Yeah, that's correct.
So it's like, yeah, you've done one of what, 15,000? Like,
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of, and like, maybe she could bargain for like the wearer. You know what I mean? Like, maybe just sort of be the translator or interpreter or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? Instead of her
giving all of her shit away.
Yeah, like she could be like, hey, the person that owns this ring, like, is there anything they can do for you instead of what she can do?
Matches their personality in some way.
Yeah.
Which it does seem like kind of starts happening, and maybe that's what'll happen in the next books, but yeah. The ring then says that it's whole, and then it goes silent, and she's like, what did you mean about saving Fisher? So she puts the ring on, and she just hears thousands of voices chanting Anareth More, which we still don't know what it means. Then Talana shows up and asks if Saeris is okay after fighting, and Carrion just flirts shamelessly with her. And Saeris was a bit jealous of Talana last week because Fisher goes to see her all the time because she's a healer. Mm-hmm. But
thought there might be something to it.
Yeah, which, you know, fair. But she shows Carrion and Saeris her tattoos and is like, she's got the hand and arm runes and says she's happily mated and married. And Saeris is like, what? Because obviously tattoos showed up all over her hands and fingers, and she's like, what? Why do you have tattoos? Like, why does that mean that you're married and mated?
Yeah.
So Talana says that her and her husband actually designed the tattoos together, and it's a Fae custom to get them tattooed on your 5th wedding anniversary because some marriages fail. Which I'm like, I love it. Saeris then asks if they, like, just show up out of the blue overnight or while you're having sex with someone. And I'm like, fuck's sake. You can't be that obvious when you're questioning somebody. Like, what?
Oh.
But Talana says, like, no, of course not. But she says that used to happen, but it doesn't happen anymore because, like, fated mates aren't a thing in this world anymore. It only happened when you had a fated mate. So we're like...
Yeah, so essentially we're getting told
they're
that
mates.
They are fated mates.
Yeah. And then Talana kind of tells her that, like, they don't get too many runes because it's seen as greedy. And Saeris is like, shit, I had, like... 2-3 runes a finger. Like, there were so many runes on her. And Talana's like, nobody gets more than 6 because it's greedy. And she's like, fuck, if I ever show my tattoos, it's gonna look like I got a bajillion.
Yeah.
And then Saeris asks about, like, script around the wrist. And Talana's like, nobody does that because it used to be called, like, a god binding. and it was like a blessing from the gods, but it was only in like tragic stories where one of the two would always die, and like it's not an actual thing that happens. It's just like
yeah, it's just like fairy tales.
Yeah,
like in her brain, they're not real.
Yeah, it's just a myth.
Yeah,
and then obviously like you wouldn't get them because like A, you'd be afraid you'd anger the gods, and B, most of the stories end very badly, so you don't really want them.
Yeah.
But also, Saeris has when
one.
she got her tattoo, so it's like,
oh shit.
So I'm like, is this series gonna end in a bad way? Because I
will riot.
I thought this was a romantasy.
I will riot, and I will rebel, and I will just keep sending Callie Hart lettuce.
Lettuce?
Yes. I'll pull a James Acaster, and I'll just send her lettuce.
Fair. I thought you just missaid letters or something. No. But lettuce, yeah, fair. And I don't know where she lives. I assume it's in the States somewhere. So it'll be moldy by the time it gets there. It doesn't matter. She could live in Canada. She could live a province away from us, and it would be moldy by the time it comes there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
Don't do us dirty, Callie.
Yeah.
Or be prepared for lettuce.
Lettuce. So silly. Yeah. So Saeris then is like, where is Fisher? And Telena's like, oh, he's in his room. And she and Onyx just like go there immediately because she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, we gotta deal with this.
Yeah. And this is actually the moment when I started looking up the fan art, because like she goes into the room and Onyx just goes over and he jumps up into Fisher's lap, and like Fisher just smiles at him, and I'm like, that is the fan art I want. I want the fan art of Fisher with the fox in his lap. I want it. I couldn't find it.
You looked for it?
I did look for it. I wanted it so bad.
There's one that I can see, which is them standing up and the fox is in her arms.
Don't want that.
It's pretty.
I want the fox in his lap.
It's pretty good though, in all fairness.
No.
No.
Okay. What I want.
All right. That's fine.
Yeah. So she storms in then, and she asks why he won't say her name. And then she says, and like she doesn't even give him enough time to respond to it. She's just like, I just saw Talana and asked about her tattoos and about god bindings. And she's like, so, why don't you say my name?
Yeah, would you like to explain yourself, sir?
So she like watches him for a bit, and she just thinks like, he's so handsome. And then like deep down inside her, she just like feels like he's hers. And he just says that she knows. And she's like, nope, I need you to say it.
Yeah,
and
that's not
which
good
is fair,
enough, sir.
I need open and honest communication, please and thank you. But he says at first he hated her because of what she represented. And she's like, what? And he's like, weakness and vulnerability. And she's like, yeah, because I'm human. You've said this 5,000 million times about how much you hate me because I'm human. But he says that it's not her weakness and vulnerability, but his. And he just drops that he's known for centuries that she would come and change everything. Like, okay. It's just something. And he says that she's the thing that Malcolm is going to use to hurt him. And he then tells her, and this is where we kind of get about Osha, the nickname, but he says that he told her about the Oshalith butterflies to be cruel, but it wasn't the full truth. And then he kind of explains that, like, these butterflies hatch about once in a Fae lifetime, which
it's like thousands of years.
Yeah, he's over 1,000 and only looks 30, so, like, is it 10, like, what? 10, like, I don't know. Don't know.
4,000 years, 5,000 years, maybe, is the lifespan. Maybe.
Yeah. So they hatch where the dragons used to hatch, and it's cold there, and the bravest fae go and shield the butterfly cocoons? Eggs? Are they in cocoons for 4,000 years?
That's a great question. I couldn't. I don't know.
I think I'm getting too in the weeds here.
Yeah.
So like bravest fae go and shield them, and it's like the most beautiful thing that someone can see in their lifetimes. And fae actually die trying to protect them, and
which is ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What is this?
I guess if you're like 4,000 years old and you're like, I'm done with my life, sure.
Yes.
It's just an elaborate form of suicide. But yeah, I just don't really get it either. But they have to like walk to them because the like horses can't even get to them. It's an interesting concept. And Oshalith actually means most sacred. So that's what he's been calling her, most sacred, this whole time. And he tells her that fae actually have true names, which a lot of people love about this book because nobody really likes that Kingfisher is his name. So we're assuming he has a true name that we haven't heard yet.
Yes. So
because he says, sorry.
Oh, so I'm assuming Kingfisher is based on some behavior relating to the fish.
Yeah.
Like the fish must do something that he also does and therefore got named for.
Yeah. Interesting. Wish I had thought through that before now, but...
Why, so you could have researched the fish? Or, no, it's not a fish, it's a bird. Kingfishers are birds. Have we been saying it's a fish this whole time?
You were saying it's a fish.
No, I lied. They are birds this entire time. They've been birds.
But people also call him the Fisher King. And I'm like, did that come first for some reason? And then they called him Kingfisher. Did King come because he's the not bastard son. He's the stepson of the king. Like, I don't know. But anyway, so this true names thing, only their mothers know their true names. And she came to this world and she only had one name and everyone used it. And he was scared.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
What?
Sorry, no, keep going. I'm going along with your explanation.
Oh, I thought you were looking up what a kingfisher was and you were like, I get why they call him that.
No, not yet. It's a bird.
Okay. Yeah.
It's still a bird.
Yes, I can't. I was like, he could fly. But he was scared of what it would do to him to use her name because it would be the same as if, like, I'm assuming this is a scene that's going to come up in one of the next books where she actually finds out his real name. She's going to say his real name and it's going to destroy him in a way emotionally, you know.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
Okay.
So, kingfishers usually hunt from an exposed perch. When a prey item is observed, the kingfisher swoops down to snatch it, then returns to the perch. They then beat their prey against the perch to kill it and to dislodge or break protective spines and bones. Having beaten it, it is manipulated and then swallowed. So they're just brutal.
Does that sound like Fisher? Yeah, I guess.
I think they're very brutal hunters. Like they beat their prey to death.
Yeah. Like a lot of birds are kind of like that because like even seagulls, they'll like go get the ones that have spikes. They'll like pick up I forgot what they're called.
Sculpins.
No, like the shells that you can get on the beach that are spiky.
Oh,
anyway,
urchins.
Urchins, yeah, they'll pick them up and then they'll shatter them on rocks. They'll just fly high and drop them so that they shatter on rocks and then eat them.
But I guess letting it drop is different than literally beating it against the side of a thing until it dies.
I think a seagull would, though, if it could. They're just vicious. But yeah. I wonder if that's something that we'll get more of. Also, there were those chapters that... Did you read those after?
No, I did
There's
not.
chapters from Fisher's point of view on Callie Hart's website, and I haven't read them yet. But it's funny, because I was like, we should talk about those, and then I completely fucking forgot about it. Not actually talk about reading them, but talk about, like, extra chapters that books have. But yeah, the first one is actually, like, in the past. I just expected them to be, like, part of this book. His point of view, but I'm sure they'll be interesting, and I will get to them. So Saeris starts to cry and asks how he knew that it was her. And he says he was told by his mother, who was an oracle, and he didn't believe her. But then he was taken to ... because he can't actually say. And he says he has to be careful, and he can't. And she realizes, which we kind of talked about last week, that there are things that he can't say. But he does tell her that his mother wrote him a book, and she knew she was going to die soon and kind of wanted to leave him with everything he needed. And his mother said when he needed her most, Saeris would come in on a wave of chaos and guide him out of the darkness. And he would love her despite himself. And his mother felt like they were friends already, her and Saeris. And she drew her almost perfectly in this journal. But in the journal, there was one difference. Saeris actually had pointed ears, and she was Fae. And he's like, she used to make small mistakes, but like this mistake has a lot of effects to it, because like she's human. She only has 70 years, like at most 100, like 100 and a bit, whatever. But when she came and like found him and she was human, he wanted to leave her in her world, but she was dying. So he took her, and that is the reason he was awful to her, because he was like, she's my mate, but she's human and she's gonna die.
Yeah. It's like a slap in the face.
Yeah. He tells her that he felt and smelt the mating bond immediately. And he actually didn't know the marks would show up when they had sex. He was kind of surprised too. But he obviously knew what they meant. And he says the marks come at a cost, and they are tragic. Like, he kind of says the same thing Talana did. And he says he's not well, and he can't sleep, and he sees things constantly, and he hears things, and it's getting worse. So he's kind of saying that, like, I don't know, at this point I'm like, wouldn't it be perfect to have a human mate if you're kind of not well? Because, like, neither of you have a long time. So it just seems like this worked out better than if he found her as a fae and she had 4,000 or 5,000 years to live. Like, he's not well, so he's probably not going to live that long. I'm just like, it's almost perfect that she is human, because you're sick.
Oh, that's true too, yeah.
But he's basically saying he doesn't want her to get stuck with him. And he tells her, like, his relic isn't working anymore, and she says she can make another one, but he says this one was special, and it actually had spell work in it, too. So we're assuming witchy spell work. And I'm like, huh, interesting. Maybe that'll come up in the next book. And he says the thing inside of him is getting stronger, so he doesn't want to bond to her. And she asks if he rejected the bond, and he says he's not sure how it works, but he's been researching it, and he basically like initiated a waiting period, which was when he like disappeared all of her marks. And she says he's been looking for a way to free himself, and he says he was trying to save her. And he says he would have rejected it, but he couldn't make himself do it. But once the waiting is over, she can go back to a normal life, make all the relics, and then go home. And she is rightfully just pissed that he's decided to make all of these decisions without, like, telling her about them or talking to her.
Yeah, it's Reese and Feyre all over again.
Yeah. But he just says there aren't any good options. And his mother's book just said, like, the fates would guide them from here. So it didn't actually have anything about what he should do. And she just says that she gets to decide, not the fates. And he says that she can save her world, but he's going to die. So he's kind of like, you don't want to be stuck with me. And he says it's no life he wants to live going insane. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, are you going to kill yourself? And he says that Ren's actually going to help him. And she kind of, like, pushes him away and calls him selfish. And she says that, like, if he dies, so will Lorith. Because we had that conversation with Lorith last week or 2 weeks ago. He has a piece of Fisher's soul. And he was like, the last breath that Fisher takes will be the same as his last breath. And Fisher's just like, I won't tell them that I'm killing myself. I'll just leave, and they'll think I'm just not around. And it's like, someone would notice, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not a great plan. So she leaves and says she's going to research how to save them all, since she doesn't give up when things get hard, and she's surprised that he does. So she goes to her room later, and Carrion's there, the room she was originally in, but she can't sleep because he snores, so she, like, brings her duvet to a random couch and sleeps on that, and then wakes up to, like, Fisher watching her, and he's just sitting in a chair. And she goes to walk away, but he grabs her hand, and she, like, stops and, like, smooths his hair, but she is pissed about everything. And she's, like, pissed at everyone and the fates and the gods and, like, all that stuff. And then she goes to leave, but she looks back and he's, like, holding his face. So she comes back to him and he holds her and, like, rests his head on her stomach. And she, like, just pats his back until he leans back and nods to say that, like, he's okay. And then she just leaves.
I didn't like that.
She's just like, I'm like, they should talk.
I just, like, I don't know. Because, like, I don't know why she's so okay, scratch that. I understand why she's upset. However, we need to think about this in a logical way. If it were me, I would be pissed at the whole, he was a jackass to me. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But would I be pissed that he didn't tell me I was his fated mate? Like, I would be only in the fact that if it were me and I was in love with him, that I'd be like, it's not a problem, I'm in love with you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But she's like, you kept this information. You kept things from me. Blah, that's bad. But, like, in his defense, they haven't known each other very long. And,
no, not at all.
And what's he gonna do? Like, she's literally bleeding out, dying. Is he gonna be like, hey, you're my mate, I'm gonna save your life now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like, after that, like, he didn't want her. He was trying to distance himself from her and couldn't.
Yeah.
So, like, I sort of understand why he wouldn't tell her, and I feel like she probably needs to get over it.
Yeah, I do feel like I give her a bit of grace, I guess, because she does say that, like, she says that she's pissed about it all, and she's mad at the fates and the gods for, like, doing this to them. She doesn't really seem as pissed at him as she could be, in my opinion. Like, I think she should be pissed at him for 1,000 other things. I don't think she should be pissed at him for not telling her. I think she should be pissed at him for tricking her into the deal and for, like, all that stupid shit. But, I don't know. I get needing time to process, especially when you're a person that, like, doesn't have such a thing as fated mates.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very much like, I don't know, there's just so many other parts happening in this story. And, like, I also get being pissed at him that he's like, I've decided we can't be mates because I decided it. So, even though that lasts, 5 minutes? But we get a bit of a time jump here, and Lorith says that they can't find a witch in 36 hours. But Ren says, what?
I'm just anticipating this whole witch debacle.
Yeah. Ren basically says they're, like, witches are the only ones powerful enough to keep Malcolm's venom at bay, aka save Lane. Talana says it will take weeks, maybe even months, to pull all of the venom out, and it's basically like acid, so they will need a powerful witch to help. And Fisher says there are still half-witches. He says the name of the place, but it's close enough that he can Shadowgate too. So Carrion asks to go, but Fisher's just like, no, you just want to fuck a witch. And he's like, yeah, that's 100%. Yes. That's why I want to go.
Yes, I would.
So I'm kind of like, is he going to end up with a witch? I'm pairing people up left, right, and center in my brain.
I feel like Carrion's not the monogamous type.
He doesn't need to be.
I don't think he's going to end up with anybody. I think he'll end up with everybody.
I'm fair with that. Danya says that she wants to go because she wants to do something useful instead of, like, staying around here in the library. And Saeris is just like, she could be being useful if she would actually pick up a fucking book. Of course. And we also get that, like, she didn't even thank Talana for her new hand, which is apparently amazing. And we're like, what? I don't know.
What makes it amazing? Why? Is it just a hand?
I think it's just a hand. I think it's just that she got her hand back.
Right.
If I lost my hand, I wouldn't get it back.
That's a true point.
But it's just to show that she's, like, shitty, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm still pissed.
Yeah.
At how shitty she is.
Yeah.
Carrion then votes that she go because she's a dark cloud, and she, like, elongates her fangs, her canines, and he just looks intrigued. And we're like, of course he does. And Fisher's basically okay, just says, like, Ren and Danya are going to go with him. And Talana tells him to come see her first, and then immediately when he comes back. So Saeris kind of just realizes that, like, Talana is actually helping him with his Quicksilver degeneration.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously, everybody else could see that. I get being jealous, though. Like, I understand.
And, like, he wasn't telling her any of that either.
No, which is, yeah, he should have. But we could all see it. So the rest are left at the library, and they're not having any luck with helping Lane or Fisher. And then Ren just, like, shadow gates there, and he's pissed. And he says they found the witches, and they agreed to help, until Danya said that it was the least they could do after leaving the Fae to clean up their messes and turning their backs on Aurelia. Like, why the fuck did you bring her?
Because they wanted to get rid of her.
It's just annoying. And basically all hell broke loose then. And Lorith just says, like, the next time she goes to hit him, he's going to spank her, and not in a fun way.
Woo!
And I was like, are they going to end up I cannot be stopped. But Fisher basically just took her back to the camp because, like, obviously she is being fucking useless. And Ren says there was one witch that was there who may have had enough magic to help, and she was the most irritating of them all, and she actually just, like, used a hex to knock him into the mud and, like, act like a pig. Which is just funny. And he says that Fisher is going to go back to try to talk to her alone. So later, Fisher shows up with a female, Ishabal, and she's a clan heir, and she agreed to help. And she looks at them and she's like, this is it. Like, you 3 Fae and 2 humans are going to go after and fight Malcolm. And Fisher answers, of course not. The humans are going to stay here. And of course, kind of like we talked about last week, Saeris is just like, no, I'm fighting with you too. But he says, like, this isn't feeders that they're going to be fighting. It's Malcolm and his lords, and they'll fill them with venom and watch them scream themselves to death. And she's like, venom.
Oh, I was in a fourth wing frame of mind, I guess, because I totally heard venom, and I'm like, there's venom in this now too? Where did I miss that?
I might have said it. It could have very really come out of my mouth. But venom. And she just kind of accepts that. And she's like, it's scary. I know he's trying to scare me, but I'd rather not be left behind. I'd rather go and whatever. And then Carrion just is like, yeah, I want to go too, because he says he's too pretty to die old. And Fisher's just like, fine, you guys can come. And you're like, he's relenting way too easily.
Yeah.
So she makes her bed on the couch again, and tomorrow they're going for Lane. And Fisher comes and asks if she really thinks he's going to let her sleep here again. And she says she isn't sure that he'd want her in his bed. Why?
I mean, she's the one mad at him.
Yeah. But he says if it was up to him, they'd never sleep apart again. And he, like, it is a very sweet moment. And then he, like, starts to take her hair down and, like, I don't know, I just feel like it's, like, starts to relax her kind of moment, and it's just, like, a sweet moment. And she says that she wants that, too. And he says they have tonight, and then they'll get Lane back, and once she's healed, they can worry about him. So he's agreeing to try to, like, find a cure or work on the Quicksilver. And she obviously agrees to that. Then he shadowgates her to the house from before in that town that they went to with the festival. And it's all full of candles, and he uses his magic to, like, pull out shadows so that the room actually looks like the candles are stars, and it's just beautiful. And she's like, you did all of this for me? And he's like, I'm selfish. I did it for me, too. Like, I don't really think that's the definition of selfish, but okay. And she tells him to make her forget that she ever suffered or that she ever will again. And then he's just, like, immediately on her.
Woo!
Yeah, this is the spice. So he kisses her, and his canines just, like, immediately cut through her lips, and she's, like, bleeding. And I'm like, this is intense.
But also, like, I feel like it would be so much less hot than you think it's going to be.
100%
like,
your lips, yeah.
And we're like, woo! But secretly, if it were to actually happen in real life, you'd be like, oh, this is really not attractive. Like, oh, hang on, we need to stop, pause, wait, stop, let me get a napkin, and, like, wait, let me staunch the bleeding until it stops. Wait, oh, I might need a Band-Aid. Oh, actually, we might need to go to the hospital. Like, it just seems so not sexy.
Yeah, and she's like, her mouth and his mouth fill with blood, and I'm like, ugh.
I guess he kind of likes that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I'd want... Yeah. It's something. It's something. So, yeah. He basically says he's going to fuck her so hard she can't walk for a week, and she can finally, like, feel that there's a thread of energy between them, and she's like, oh, this must be the mate thing. And she knows that she could claim it, and she feels him in her bones, and she thinks, and I just think,
just do it.
No. I don't dislike this part. I get why it's here. But she thinks that they are 2 whole people who, if they claim this bond, the other would become their axis of their, like, world, basically. But it's very I get it. Like, I'm a feminist. I get the, like, needing to be your own person. But, I don't know, in my romance books, I'm like, just dive head on into that mating bond. I'm like, I'm suspending my belief in what men can be. I can suspend my belief in feminism a bit too. Like, I don't know. But she's like, we're both two whole people away from each other. I'm like, no, you're both so fucked up and you need so much therapy. You're both trauma, like full of trauma. So much fucking trauma. You're not two whole people. You're maybe a third each. Even together, you won't be a full person. You've both been so fucked up. He has metal in his head, eyes, and brain. Like, anyway. I appreciate it, especially if, like, younger people are reading it that are trying to get into relationships and, like, trying to figure out what love should be. Yes, you should be a whole person on your own first. But
yes.
I just found it kind of funny. I was like, aren't you two whole people? Anyway, so she feels her runes all, like, reappear then, and the god bindings, and she, like, feels tattoos all over her legs, back, and stomach, and I don't know if that's just, like, them, like,
moving around.
Yeah, or if she's, like, full body tattooed now. Doesn't seem like it later.
Like, it just seems like such a convenient way to get tattooed.
I would need to know what they mean. And, like, she's like, he's very hesitant to explain them to her. I'm like, he explained the ones on her fingers and their alchemist things. And I'm like... But, like, can you imagine if you just had hand tattoos that were based on your job? I don't think I'd love it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it'd be hard to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
But,
I don't know, man.
Mine wouldn't be so bad because a lot of my tattoos have to do with the ocean anyway. But anyway, yeah. So all the tattoos are coming back, and he starts to finger her, and she begs, and he tells her that he's gonna fuck her like no one ever can, and she'll see all 7 gods, and she should tell them that he's the one she worships on her knees.
Oh, I love it.
Jay, I fucking love it. I love when a mailman character is like, don't scream out God, because he's not the one, like, doing this to you. I'm like, yes!
Yeah.
So... they take off their clothes, and she kneels for him then, because she hasn't had the chance yet, because he's been worshipping her. And he, like, lets up on the darkness now, and she's like, I thought that you were leaving it dark because you were hiding the tattoos. And he's like, yeah, but I need to see you do this. Because of course.
Yeah.
And he says that he's not afraid of the tattoos, and he asks if she is. And... she thinks they're beautiful, but says she hasn't made up her mind.
Girl,
which I think is fair.
Make up your mind.
So then she just gives him a blowjob, basically, and it's the most amazing, and he has to, like, stop her, and then, like, immediately just takes her on the floor, even though there's, like, a bed not too far away. And he asks her to tell him that she wants it, and she begs. And then she comes, and then he does, and he just, like, gets a neck tattoo. Which is just, like, it's so funny. But it's a blue, greenish, metallic wings thing.
Like butterfly wings.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think...
is it butterfly wings?
I took them to be butterfly wings, because little Osha, you know.
Yeah.
She's a... he calls her...
I kind of assumed it was a bird because of her first tattoo, but based on nothing. It's just when I think wings, I guess. But yeah, that makes sense.
I could also be wrong.
Oh, I could be too. I don't think there's any pictures of it or anything. It's just wings.
But do you know what, though? Do you know what's really funny? When I first read it, my first instinct was, like, angel wings. And I'm thinking he's got these, like, pretty little angel wings on his neck, and I thought it was really funny, but then I thought about it some more, and I was like, that doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah. No, that would make sense to have little butterfly wings. I love it. And then he says it's just the beginning, and they have sex 5 times in 3 hours.
It's too many times.
And then they eat, and he asks if he got a new tattoo, because he says he felt something, and she, like, explains it to him and asks what it means, and she says that, like, he checked her while they were having sex one of those 5 times, and she didn't get any new tattoos. It's just the same one she already had. And he tells her then that he got the tattoo because he accepted the mating bond. And I'm like, I'd be pissed about this. You can't just accept it in your head.
I mean,
what?
Why not?
And not tell her at all.
Why not?
I don't know.
But I mean, to be fair, him accepting the bond really has nothing to do with her.
Yeah, but he was just like, I should have rejected it, but I couldn't. And now he's like, I accepted it. Oopsies. Like, what? But he says he accepted it when he was inside of her and his soul was wrapped around hers.
God, you should never do something when you're having sex like that.
No. Don't make any big purchases. Like somebody's soul.
Yeah, same thing. Like, you never should say, like, I love you for the first time. Or you should never, like, ask someone to marry you while you're having sex. Like, same thing applies.
My God, can you imagine? Do people do that while they're having sex? Just, like, produce a ring? Where did it magic come from? I didn't finish my sentence.
I think of it just as, like, a little baby cock ring. It's like, wanna find it.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Oh, you would either need a very large ring size or very skinny.
I have something I need to tell you once we stop for the night.
All right.
Okay. So she's just kind of in shock. And she's like, I'm a human. What the fuck? And he says that her lifespan is inconvenient, but he'll be grateful for every minute he gets with her. Whether it's 80 hours or... No. Sorry. 80 years or 18 hours. And I'm like, he's made his plan. He knows what he's doing.
Yes, yeah.
He's being a cunt.
But when we so love in books.
Oh, 100%. If he did anything differently, I'd be mad at him. But I'm like, you accepted it because you knew your fate in this moment. But anyway, so he hides her ink away and says that she still has weeks to decide. And he says he's in love with her and he's already half mad anyway. So it doesn't matter that she's human. And I'm like, that's exactly what I was saying. And he asks her to let him have his fantasy just for tonight. And she is just like, yeah, fine. We can wait until after we get Everlane back and figure our shit out. Mm-hmm. Fair. And then she says that the last time they came here, he said that he needed something from here. Because I think that was last week that they came to this town. And he was like, I need to get something.
Yeah.
She's like, but you never did get anything. And he was like, I just needed a little bit of hope. Which, like, kind of broke my heart a little bit.
I hate it.
So, yeah. He takes her to bed then, and then, a time jump. She wakes up alone, and there's just a shadow gate. And she looks around. She can't find him. And then there's a note under her clothes saying the gate will bring her back to Kalish. And he'll send Lane as soon as he can, and to tell Ishabel to sedate her immediately, because there won't be much time. And she'll be trying to get back to Malcolm, so she could, like, run back through the gate. And to tell Lorith to live his life, because Fisher has endless patience and no desire to have martyrs for friends. Like, ironic. They're supposed to have you as a martyr? Like, fuck off. And then to tell Renfis he's sorry and that Renfis is the standard he measures himself against. And he releases her from her oath, and he hopes that she'll make relics, but she can go and save her brother, and then she can go to one of the countless realms and make one of them hers. And he has faith they return to the same place when it all ends, and he'll be waiting for her there. So, yeah. So she starts sobbing, like you would. And she realizes that he left his sword Nimmerel there. And she knows it's to, like, keep the god sword away from Malcolm. Because, like, even if he wouldn't be able to use it, like, maybe eventually he could coax it to work for him or something. Yeah. Who knows? So she goes through the gate, and she shows up in Fisher's room, and Carrion is just there. Of course.
He's like, always everywhere.
He's just on Fisher's bed, and I'm like, the audacity. But I also love it. He's really grown on me. But he says he was looking for Onyx, and then he came in and wondered if Fisher had a diary, but he found something better. And she's just like, yeah, I know about the journal from his mom. There are pictures of me in it. He's like, yeah, how did you know that?
God.
But she's just like, where is everybody? And he says they're in the library because Fisher left a note saying they wouldn't be back until dusk. And then the shadow gate disappears. And they go to the library, and Ren's like, what's wrong? And she throws the letter down, so they all read it. And she asks if there's a Quicksilver pool here. And Ren says no, because Belcon actually took it a long time ago so that he would be able to transfer armies. And she's like, that was her only hope.
Yeah.
Really.
To be able to get.
Of getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, fuck, that's it. That's all I had. And then Carrion's like, wait, how long was the Shadow Gate open after she came back? And she's like, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds. And Lorith says that there's always a delay on them. And they realize that, like, Fisher's going to send Lane back so they can jump through the gate and get to where he is. And Ren just says he could kiss Carrion. And Carrion just thinks about it, and he's like, I'm not opposed to it. And I'm like, I fucking love it. Of
course you're not. He's like literally a walking... like walking pheromones, like he's a sex addict.
Yeah. I'm here for it. I just love it. I'm like, I don't know. But he says later, because Saeris has work to do. And I'm like, oh, interesting. So, another jump. And Saeris is telling a bad joke. She says, did you hear about the fire at the circus? It was intense. Carrion just says that was a terrible joke. So she's just like, well, you do better. And his joke is, a husband asks his wife to tell him something that will make him happy and sad at the same time. She doesn't even think about it. She just says, your cock is way bigger than your brother's.
I love it.
Like, this is, yep.
Hilarious.
It's his own fault for asking. Yeah. So, and the Quicksilver chuckles. And it allows her to forge it to a sword. That she wasn't able to make a sword, but Ren found them one in the armory. And it agrees to just mesh into it. What's the word? Like forge into it?
I guess.
They're friends. They're together.
Yeah,
they're stuck.
The Quicksilver
meld.
Yeah, adheres.
Yeah,
adheres to the sword.
Yeah. And while she's, like, doing that, Carrion tells the Quicksilver more and more jokes, and the Quicksilver is, like, loving each one. And he basically asked her to make him a sword, and he would then agree to go try to help her save Fisher. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why did she agree to this? Why do we want him to go?
I guess
he's a human.
No, but I guess any help is better than nothing.
I know, but I'm like, he's a worse fighter than she is, and she's already a liability, so why are we like... But yeah, he's like, make me a sword, I'll come with you. And it's like, okay. So when the sword is basically done, he pricks his finger, and it says, yes, ours, and he will name us. And then he names the sword Simon.
I hate it so much.
I kind of love it.
Simon. It's like so not intimidating at all.
I just love it because it's like, he's like, it looks like a Simon. That's how I'd name a sword. What the fuck would I name a sword? And the sword is happy with the name, and I'm like, they just belong together. That's what that is. And she asks if the sword is going to give him magic, and he says that's for him to know and for her to find out. We're like, interesting. So I guess they go back to the dining room, the library. I can't remember where they are. I think it's the library. Yeah. And Isabel and Talana are setting up a spot to sedate Lane. But they kind of say, like, it's never been done before, so it may not work. And Lorith starts saying that, like, he doesn't trust the witch. And they're the reason there are vampires and, like, witches are dragon lovers. And, of course, while he's saying that, Isabel shows up and says that, like, her clan has proven that it isn't true. And they were instrumental in breaking the curse. And she came here of her own free will to help the daughter of a tyrant who has a bounty on her and her clan's heads. And she says that he should be grateful. And then she, like, asks what his name is. And he just says that she knows because they've met before. And I'm like, interesting. Is this the enemies to lovers that we're about to get in the next book?
You literally are play matchmaker.
I cannot help it.
I did not have these thoughts when I was reading through.
That is fair, but I had them all.
The only one I had was Ren and Lane.
But when last week when Lorth shows up and he's like, is that Lane? I was like, are they together? Like, what is happening? I think it's just not fair because Ren and Lorth are both so hot that I'm like, me and them.
It's like, I will participate.
Where can I fit myself into one of these characters so that I'm with one of these men?
Where can I sign up?
Yeah, basically. So Ren basically stops them and gets Lorith to apologize, and it's tense. And Saeris is like, Carrion, tell them what you named your sword. But then the shadow gate just opens, and it's in the ceiling, which is very inconvenient. And Everlane falls through and just, like, smashes the table, which would be the way to get, like, jump up into the ceiling. So Lorith goes to grab Saeris, but she needs to get her sword, so she says, throw Carrion first, so they do. She runs over, and Everlane says her name, and wait, the water. But they just throw Saeris through. They only have, like, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then she gets pulled up into the portal, and she's falling through the air, and then she falls into water. And she starts to panic, of course. And Lorith ends up, like, I guess, falling near her and drags her up and brings her to the shore. And she immediately knows that, like, some of her ribs are broken and she's not okay.
Just from landing in the water wrong.
Yeah. Because I think she was, like, 80 feet above the water. So, like, that is a hard... Like, I'm surprised you wouldn't just die.
She also probably doesn't know how to swim.
Yes, that does... Yeah, they do mention that she and Carrion don't know how to swim. So she's like, where's Carrion? And he scans the water and then goes out to get him. And she looks around and, like, they're on a beach, I guess. But it's just water and then, like, 100 feet of cliff behind them. So there's really nowhere to go. Lorith drags Carrion out and his lips are blue. And Lorith starts, like, hitting his chest, but he doesn't move. And Sierra says that if he doesn't wake up now, all of his friends in the third... No, she'll tell all of his friends in the third that he was a shitty lay. And of course, he, like, starts puking up lake water, and then he glares at her and says, you wouldn't fucking dare. Because that's all he cares about. Ren didn't make it through, and Lorith says, like, if he jumped a second later, the portal might have actually split him in half. And then Saeris and Carrion would have died because neither one of them can fucking swim. Carrion is also hissing when he breathes, so she's like, he likely broke some ribs too. And then Lorth gives them both 2 leaves of widow's bane to chew, and then put under their tongue, but not to swallow, because they'll just be shitting themselves. Eee. But he says it completely deadens their pain for a couple of hours, but it can be super addictive because it works so well at deadening pain.
Emotional pain?
Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting one. I'd like to know. I don't think so because of how the rest of the book goes, but maybe. Maybe it would have been worse. Like, it doesn't deaden fear, it doesn't seem. But interesting. So, Saeris kind of is like, well, we need to climb up this big-ass wall. And luckily, she thinks she and Carrion have been, like, climbing taller walls in the third since they were kids. So she looks up and she thinks it's snowing, but she realizes it's actually ash. And she touches the cliff and hears thousands of voices saying Anarath Moor. And she just yells at them both to climb. And they just, like, get to the top in not too much time, and they're in, like, an amphitheater, and there's hundreds of thousands of people in the stands yelling Anarath Moor. And Lorth explains that it, like, translates to release us. And there's a labyrinth in the middle, and then there's a dais on the other side, and she can make out that Fisher is at the foot of the dais, but she can't make out who's at the top of it, but we obviously assume it's Malcolm. And Lorth just asks what he's looking at, and Heron, the guard from week 1 that tried to kill Saeris, and she attacked.
And, like, gutted him, and had him, like, attacked by Quicksilver.
Yeah. He just fucking shows up and we're like, wait, what? What is going on? And his eyes are just like full of Quicksilver. Like there is no color left. It's all silver. And his teeth are cracked off and I was just like, Ugh. This seems excessive.
I don't like that.
But he has a dagger to Lorth's throat. And he says he'd slit his throat to get to the girl and tells her that she's caused a lot of trouble and she was supposed to die like a good little bitch. And you're like, of course.
Go straight to that.
And she thinks that like Lorth could actually defend himself, but there's hundreds of feeders climbing up the cliff now, crawling towards them, and they all look newly turned, which is
how can you
sketchy. Well, they just don't look so dilapidated, and their clothes are new.
Okay.
And Heron, like, is able to keep them at bay, and she's like, how does he have that power? He's just a human, too. And then Heron creates a portal, and she thinks it, like, feels different than the Shadow Gates. It feels wrong, but it's her only choice, and Lorth, like, nods to her and says he'll be behind her, and she thinks, we're here, Fisher, for what it's worth, we're coming. And he thinks back to her, Saeris, don't come here. But she's already, like, walking through and being ripped apart by the vortex.
Yeah. Okay. So, the next part is, like, you just see that, I guess, Saeris and them have been transported just to, like, nearby. Like, he didn't take them very far. He just took them from one end of the amphitheater to the other end of the amphitheater. He didn't want to walk.
Yeah.
And, like, she comes out and lands really close to Fisher and says, she thinks in her head that, like, I could have found him. I would know him anywhere, like, and he's talking to her in her brain about how, like, he wanted to spare her from this. He didn't want her to suffer along with him. And she can tell that, like, he's been beat up pretty bad.
Of course.
By Heron, obviously. But he is sort of, like, goaded by Malcolm, who is at the top of the dais. Actually, did I? Like, because you said that you didn't know. Oh, yeah. So, okay. So, I sort of skipped it. I sort of skipped it in my analysis. So, I guess they look up at the dais, and Malcolm is there in the middle, but on either side, there is Belicon and Madra. So,
lots going on.
Three of them are all there. And like Malcolm sort of knows already who Saeris is, and he knows who Lorith is, but he doesn't know who Carrion is. And
I love this scene.
Yeah, and Carrion tries to like introduce himself, but Heron just like hits Carrion in the head, which was fun. Yeah. And then I guess Malcolm tells them that their god swords do not have power here, because this place is a graveyard and it's full of death, and the ground beneath them is bones and ash. So there's no way for their magic to reach them. So their swords are effectively useless. Which is unfortunate because they literally just made his sword. And then Madra calls Malcolm, or Belicon, I think, her brother. And I guess, like, Saeris is starting to put it together that, shit, the three of them are actually related. And they're sort of like each species, almost, like human, fae, and vampire. Yeah. So, like, we don't really get if they're actually related or if they're just, like, they've decided to form their, like, I don't really understand this trio. I feel like we're missing something. Maybe. I, like, genuinely think that they are siblings, I thought. That seems wild. Why is she human? I don't know. She's immortal, so, like, is she the parent of humanity? Like, yeah, I guess she could also be glamored to look human. I don't know. There was just a few things with this that I was like, I feel like they've cut some things out of this book that I need more of to understand. Yeah. Anyway, so, like, everybody, like, Saeris tries to get the two men to go against Madra and be like, she's not your ally, she's the one who closed the Quicksilver pools. And they were like, yeah, we know, like, and Belicon was like, yeah, I guess it's sort of my bad, I did send someone after her to kill her. Wah, wah. And then they were like, it's all water under the bridge, now our triumvirate is back and we're more powerful than ever. And, like, Lorith is enraged because he's looking at Belicon and being like, dude, we've been at war with him for eons, like, so long. And now you're just, like, sitting up there next to him. And Belicon is like, we weren't at war. I was literally giving him more feeders for his army. So, like, he was intentionally sacrificing fae from his army to Malcolm to turn into feeders. So... Wild. I didn't really expect this to happen in the end. No? No. I don't know what I expected, but... And it sort of, it like, totally makes sense in Saeris' brain. Like, oh yeah, of course, that's why he's not sending supplies. He doesn't want to waste supplies on, like, warriors if he didn't actually want them to survive. Like, why would he give them anything? So, like, all three of them are just sort of talking amongst themselves and, like, treating our main characters here like the scum beneath their feet, essentially. And are like, oh, you know, like, oh, you want to see some fun? Oh, I'm so sorry. And, like, you know, we're reunited, the three of us, sister and brother, and, like, talking to each other like that. And, like, oh, we've all been having such a wonderful time. And then they bring up Gilithry, which was the last place that Fisher was seen before he disappeared. And I guess they're goading Fisher about the event, and Fisher is like, I'm gonna kill you. And they're like, oh, you were there, and like, why don't you tell your friends the story? Oh, wait, you can't. And like, are teasing him. And I guess Saeris, like, Belicon goes down and like hits him, and Saeris is like, no, don't, and is like really upset about it. And then Malcolm suggests that they ask the crowd, because there are thousands of people sitting in the amphitheater in the stands. And then Malcolm says, after all, they are the ones that he killed.
Yeah.
And Lorith, like, does not believe it at all. He's like, you're a liar. And then Saeris is like looking at these people, and she's looking at everybody, and she sees that their clothes are black and their skin is like burned, and all of their facial features are fixed in like these screams, and their eyes are like missing or melted, and like they're all dead. And there are females, males, children. They've all been burned alive, and yet are somehow still animated and like trapped in pain.
Yeah.
And then they decide, so like Belicon's like, oh yes, should we remove Fisher's gag so that he can tell you what really happened, and how he should confess for his crimes. And all the voices are like really angry and antagonistic, and they're all chanting like, yes, he should. So then they release Fisher from his gag order, I guess, and they want him to tell everybody about the deal he made years ago. And what happened in Gilithry. So he's obviously been beaten up quite a bit by this point, but like he still has the energy to tell his story. So he says that like he heard that the horde of vampires had gathered 20,000 strong, and he was portaling. His goal was to portal his soldiers to Gilithry, but obviously he didn't have enough time to portal a full army, so he just took his wolves. So like his seven or eight trusted soldiers. And the goal was for them to just save as many as they could. But they arrived too late. The horde was actually already inside the gates of the city, and there was a festival on the go, so like all the Fae were out and about in the streets. So Fisher left Ren and the other wolves to do what they had to do, and he decided to hunt down Malcolm. Only he didn't find Malcolm. He found Belicon, who,
of course,
yes, who he knew was the man who killed his mother. And like Belicon is obviously an asshole at this part, and lays it on that his mom was supposed to be the best oracle of their time, and like she was useless, and he forced that brat on her, like forced her to have that brat, aka Lane. He slit her throat because he was sick of her lies. So like he's a straight up dick this entire time.
Yeah.
And like Fisher just
she's stupid though.
I know. But Fisher just reminds him like his mom couldn't lie the same way that Fisher can't lie because they took an oath.
Yeah.
But I guess
delusional men in power will believe what they want to believe.
Well, I guess that's sort of the challenging part is like, you know, Saeris questioned that too. Like, you say you can't lie just because to lie means you're dishonoring your oath, but like, so the fuck what?
Yeah.
But anyway, so Malcolm sort of, it doesn't really matter. But Malcolm then showed up at Gilithry, and Fisher saw them interacting and found out that they're not enemies, they're allies. So Fisher wanted to save any remaining Fae still alive, so Bellicon proposed a deal. He found a coin that the people in Gilithry use, and it's very small and silver. And he says he's going to toss it, and if it lands on the ground leaf side up, they would call off their horde and they would leave the city immediately. But if it landed on the ground fish side up, Malcolm was allowed to lay waste and claim the city as his own and destroy it. And Fisher would meet Malcolm on the battlefield at a later date. He also added in that Fisher would not be allowed to interfere with the coin at all. And while it was tossed, Fisher could not harm Malcolm or Bellicon or tell anyone that they were brothers or talk about the deal. And Fisher was just so desperate and distracted by the people in this town that he agreed. And when Bellicon tossed the coin, Malcolm caught it. Therefore, the coin never hit the ground.
Yeah. So I guess we're assuming when they let him out of this, like, when they were just like, he can tell the story, they also erased the other parts of it too?
No, the rest of the deal still stands.
But he stabs Bellicon. Shouldn't he not be able to?
That's a good point. Maybe...
Sorry, that hasn't happened yet, but I
could
just...
it
like...
just be that he can't hurt Malcolm in the interim?
Oh,
I think
maybe.
That was maybe the deal.
Maybe. That could be. But it was one thing that I kind of was like, what are the rules? Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Oh. Okay, no. It was, while the coin toss was being decided, he wasn't allowed to harm me or my brother. So no, he wasn't allowed to hurt Bellicon or Malcolm. Anyway, I guess we'll
get there in a second. But sorry.
And Malcolm and Bellicon are obviously laughing at this whole thing that they like tricked Fisher, and Fisher just tells everyone that he torched the city then. He lay waste. That Malcolm had like laid waste to the city and let his horde feast. It was 200,000 Fae inside. So he knew that with Malcolm's horde turning people, there was no one left in the city to save. And that if he left it alone, that would be 200,000 turned Fae that would essentially wipe out their entire continent. So he burned the city down and killed everyone inside.
Yeah. And like Danya and them knew all of this, we kind of realized. Like they knew why he did it. Even when she was pissed at him for not coming back, she was like, we know why you did what you did.
Yeah.
So the wolves knew that's why, but obviously Saeris didn't.
Well, and he obviously couldn't tell them about the deal. Just, this is what we have to do. So the fact that even though they had, like, secured, like, they had sort of tricked Fisher, the fact that Fisher still managed to, like, reduce his horde, Malcolm's horde, pissed him off. So he designed a labyrinth, and he hid the coin at the center, and then he created a coliseum around it and filled it with the souls of the dead from Gilithry.
So, can Malcolm lie?
I'm sure he can.
Yeah, because he's lying.
Oh, yeah, he is. But also, how can he resurrect souls? So, like, this is why I'm thinking, like, he can't be just a vampire. I just feel like he has to be more than that.
I guess, is it something to do with the, like, they made a deal before they all died, and now, once they've died, they're, even though they didn't make the deal, they're struck by it? I don't know.
But then you could make deals for, like, I could be like, I'd like $1 million, and then think of somebody that I don't particularly like and be like, I will wager their soul for the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. No, I know. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's fine, I guess. Anyway, so Malcolm grabs Fisher and brings him to the amphitheater in the labyrinth and says that to end all these people's suffering, all he has to do is find the coin and make it fall to the ground, and then he can call Malcolm to the battlefield. So, like, then we learn, oh, okay, this is where he's been. So they're all restrained. So Madra gets down off of her, like, little seat and goes down the stairs, and she starts touching Fisher and, like, rubbing her body against him. And Saeris...
Yeah, it's, like, wildly specific about her nipples.
Yes.
Grazing.
Yes.
Like, interesting.
It's like, all right, then. And, like, yeah, so she's, like, rubbing her nips on him, and, like, Saeris is telling her to, like, get the fuck away from him, because obviously she's feeling possessive and doesn't want this psycho touching her man. But he also tells her to get the fuck away, and that he threatens her quite descriptively.
Love it.
And it is really good. And she's like, what did I do to make you so angry? And he brings up the fact that she had Saeris sterilized as a child, and literally, like, threatens her so violently that she is shook and, like, backs off, which, thank God. I am slightly disappointed, though, that she doesn't have a greater role in all this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so she backs off, and then Malcolm just sort of continues on explaining to everybody. Essentially, we're just getting the rest of our backstory, but it needs to be done in a mocking tone.
Of course.
So Malcolm continues that it took Fisher 102 years to reach the center of the labyrinth, and then he spent another 8 years looking for the coin. And he says, like, we had some great conversations because, like, he can't hurt him. So he's obviously not intimidated by Fisher. And he says something interesting because he says, oh, we had some interesting conversations, didn't we, my love?
Yeah.
Calls him his love. And that makes Saeris ask Fisher in their heads, like, what does he mean, my love? And Fisher is just like, please don't dwell on it right now. Like, can't go through that.
It's not the time for
no, but it is also a, like, do we again have another Reese Amarantha situation?
Yeah.
Or did it never get that far?
And, yeah. So the first time I was like, immediately, yes, that's what happened. This time reading it, I was like, I'm not sure if it ever got that far.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, wouldn't want it to get that far. But
well, because Fisher can't hurt him, but that doesn't mean he can, you know.
Yeah. Which makes it funny. Not funny. That's the wrong word. But does drinking someone's blood hurt them? What are these rules about hurting people? I'm just like, I feel like, and I know I said it last week, but I feel like there's a few things in this book that if it was published mainstream, they would kind of like iron it out. And I'm kind of interested in, like, they're coming out with a hardcover of this book, and I wonder if they're going to change some things.
Oh.
If it's going to be edited differently to, like, kind of fix a few things that I'm like, are these editing errors, or are they what it's supposed to be? Like, the Quicksilver stopping when he was 11. Like, that seems wild. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, after 8 years of looking for the coin, one day the ground starts to shake and crack, and a pool of Quicksilver opens up in the ground, and it's liquid, and Fisher just goes through it. And that is the moment that he left to go get Sarah. So that was really only a few weeks ago. And Malcolm just asks, like, why did he leave at that moment? Because he gave him the option of leaving so many times, and Fisher never did. And I'm just like, couldn't you, like, if he offered you the chance to leave, could you not, like, go check in on your people for a quick hot minute and then come back? Like, you really had to do a complete, like, abandonment thing where no one knows where you are and, like, what you're doing.
But doesn't he say that, like, he offered him a chance to leave?
Yeah, and he never took it up.
But if he bid him.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
That was his offer. He didn't actually, it wasn't like, you can leave whenever you want. It was like, if you do this for me. That's how I took it.
Maybe, okay. That makes more sense. So, Fisher just said that he felt his dad's sword called to him, and that's why he left. And that's when he transports, like, he uses his shadows to transport himself quick as lightning to Saeris, and he grabs Solis from her belt, and he stabs Belicon in the stomach, and then, like, pulls it out, and then stabs him through the neck. And he says, like, this is for his parents, which makes Madra, like, all that makes Madra scream, because she's such a delicate little flower.
Apparently. And you're like, you've been alive for thousands of years, and, like, you've been a tyrant. How are you this shitty?
Yeah.
I did expect more of her.
So then Malcolm, so I do see what you mean. Like, he did stab Belicon twice. So, like, obviously he is allowed to hurt them.
Maybe, because then, like, he doesn't die. So I'm like, is it that he can stab him, but it just won't do anything? I don't know.
Madra screams. And then Malcolm, who was like, he was watching from above, he comes onto the scene and he goes to attack Lorith, or goes to attack all of them, but Lorith uses his god sword, Avisaith, and, like, barely scratches him with it, but for some reason it makes him scream in pain.
I assume, did they call it angel's breath or something? Yes. Something to do with god shit.
Because I thought that all their god swords weren't supposed to be working.
Yeah, but this is the new one that Saeris made.
Yes, I know. But I thought it still counted. Like, I thought that,
Do you mean working here because of the... Oh.
Like, I thought that Malcolm and them had just said, like, a little bit ago that your god swords won't work here. And, like, technically this is a god sword, is it not?
Yeah, so maybe it's not the actual power that's working. It's just the fact that it's a god sword and he's an abomination.
Okay, fine.
I don't know.
But, like, so he screeches in pain and Fisher's like, Saeris, run! So the guards obviously let go of her to go for Fisher, who's coming for them. So, like, Fisher's like, I'm coming for you because you're holding on to the love of my life. And so the guards are like, oh shit, so they let her go. And then Heron actually goes for Saeris because he is like, bitch, I let you get away once. You were supposed to die at my hand. I'm gonna kill you. But, like, she is obviously healthy and can fight back. So she grabs the daggers that are at her thighs and just stabs him in the gut.
Good.
Obviously it doesn't kill him because he's immortal-ish. We don't know.
He's not mortal.
Yeah.
He can't die, and it seems like it's an issue for him.
Yeah. So Fisher is, like, urging everyone to run into the labyrinth to get away. And Lorith wants to fight Malcolm. Fisher's like, don't do it. So they're just trying to run away, like, to get away from the three of them. So that exchange of Fisher saying everyone get to the labyrinth distracts Saeris, and Heron hits her in the face, but she feels no pain because of the Widow's Bane. No pain, Widow's Bane.
Love it.
And, like, they taunt each other about Heron being Madra's bitch, and, like, he taunts her about her being a rat and how rats deserve to die. And she just, like, takes him out real fast. And she, like, takes him to the ground and wraps her legs around his neck and just snaps it.
Awesome.
So, like, again, I don't actually know if he's 100% dead.
I guess we'll find out next book if he shows up.
That's true, yes.
Because I thought he was dead already.
Yeah. And then they just, like, they book it into the labyrinth. Her, Fisher, Lorth, and Carrion. So, Fisher leads them in and tells them that the first few moves in the moves. Yeah, the first few moves in the labyrinth are always the same, but then it starts to change. So it's like the stairways in Harry Potter. Staircases change, remember? So the first few moves are the same in the labyrinth, but then it starts to switch around. And Saeris asks if Fisher has a plan. He says yes, it's her. She's the plan.
Good.
Yeah. So they come across, like, the first couple of moves, and they come across this huge creature that's like a giant spider with a fade torso and a head. And gross. I don't understand what are authors, like, obsession with making human spider hybrids.
I don't like it. That's why.
I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah.
They all feel the need to do it, but they do, and I don't like it.
Too many legs.
Don't do it, people. We've seen enough spider people. So, Fisher tells them that it's actually just a demon named Morthil. Morthil?
Sure.
And tells everybody to stay still. Because if it catches and stings you, it will eat you slowly over the next few days.
Good.
And I'm like, so did Fisher get caught and eaten over a few days?
Yeah. That's, like, the only thing that makes sense. Yeah.
And, like, was he pooped out? Like,
I guess he can't die in this place, so I guess he was just, like, resurrected. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they saved him at, like, the last minute.
Yeah.
Magic.
Love magic. So he says that the goal is to, like, pick the right exit and make it to the center where the Quicksilver pool is. That's the goal. And he tells Saeris she has to listen for the Quicksilver pool because she can hear Quicksilver, so she can hear it chanting and talking, so she should be able to lead them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And she can hear it chanting, Anrath more, Anrath more. So did we decide why are they chanting that? Did I miss it?
No, I just thought that the people are chanting it.
Yeah, they are.
So I just assumed that it was being chanted in Fisher's head because he was slowly going crazy. Like, I didn't actually think but maybe the Quicksilver wants her to let it out. Maybe that's because that's what it means, apparently. Something like that.
Okay. So, like, she can...
It means release us.
Oh, okay. So the souls are chanting it.
Yes.
So the Quicksilver is probably taking in that sound and then bringing it to other places. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the chant is being brought to other places the way the Quicksilver can bring people to other places.
Yeah, I just assumed it was, like, Fisher's trauma that's why it's in his head. But then I kind of feel like here, the Quicksilver's like, release us from here. Like, she turns it into liquid and then, I don't know, releases it from there. But
I think it's already liquid. Because how else did he escape?
But yeah, so it was liquid for a little while.
It's still
then it all turned... No, because she had to turn it to liquid for him to go get Carrion, and then she turned it back to solid.
Oh.
And he said anybody could come through when it's liquid, because they're all open when it's liquid.
Right.
So I think they're all closed.
Oh, okay.
I honestly...
Anyway. Well,
don't know.
So who knows who we're releasing?
Yeah. The souls, hopefully. Those poor fuckers.
Yeah. So I guess the plan is that since the demon can sense motion, Carrion, who is positioned, like, really close to it, in the has to like lean down and belly crawl really slowly. And the rest of them like slowly lean against the wall and start to slide against the wall towards the exit that Saeris has now found. However, they accidentally are leaning on the wall and move it, and it makes a noise, which gets the attention of the spider. And the spider charges them, and they all get out their weapons, and Fisher chops a leg off, and Carrion stabs it in the belly, and they make it into the hall out of, like, the spider's domain, and the spider isn't supposed to follow them, but it does. And
all the rules are changing.
Yeah, and Fisher's like, it's not supposed to do that, it's supposed to stay out there. So, like, obviously Malcolm is changing the rules of the labyrinth because he doesn't want them reaching the center.
Yeah.
So Fisher just chops off more of its legs and stabs it in the head until it's dead. And they're all like, yay, we killed it! And Fisher's like, next time it'll just respawn smaller and faster.
Great.
Yeah. So they head through the labyrinth, and, like, they really sort of hyped up this labyrinth as being, like, really terrifying and, like, full of awful things that are horrifying.
Yeah.
And that was really it.
Yeah, they don't really come across anything else.
Come across anything else. Like,
it kind of... Is there, like... Was Malcolm just, like... hadn't created anything else yet? Like, did they all die because he didn't feed them?
I don't know.
It's weird.
But, like, Saeris just needs a minute to figure out where to go because the walls keep shifting, and she's just stressed she's gonna lead them to another enclosure with an equally terrifying monster in it. But she doesn't.
Yeah.
So, like, Fisher notices that the walls are moving really fast, so she keeps having to redirect. And he's like, oh, Malcolm really doesn't want us to find the center. But then they find it. So, I don't know, it's just a little bit, like, abrupt. Like, oh, this labyrinth is terrifying, but we only met one creature.
Yeah.
So, they find the center, and... However, like, Carrion and Saeris trip and fall onto a pile of something silver and cold. And when Saeris gets up, she sees that it's mountains of coins. So she was like, oh, well, this is why Fisher was 8 years in the center trying to find the right coin and still hasn't. Because they're just everywhere.
Well, and all these coins are presumably, yes, they are in a pile.
Yeah, they're in piles.
But, like, if you flattened the pile, they would all be touching the ground.
Yeah, but
and the whole thing was about it touching the ground.
Yeah.
So it's obviously not the bottom layer of them.
No,
you know?
but I guess there's too many to have a single layer on the ground.
Yeah, I guess.
So Lorith asked Fisher, he's like, good God, like, how did you eat and sleep and survive in here? And then Malcolm comes in and intervenes, and he just appears on top of one of the piles of coins with Madra and Belicon, and says that, like, he keeps... One weird thing is he keeps calling Fisher my love, which is, like, super sketch.
Yeah.
So, like,
I think we talked about it a bit earlier.
We did, but he just keeps going with it.
Yeah, it's real icky.
Like, he is obsessed.
Yeah. I assume we'll get some more about this next book.
Yeah. But, like, Malcolm... Well, yeah, okay. So, he tells Lorith that he spelled the place, the labyrinth, so that as long as Fisher was here in it, he wouldn't need to eat or sleep. And he was like, how nice am I?
The only pleasures in life of eating and sleeping.
I know. And, like, Lorith is really not impressed, but Malcolm's like, oh, I could have made everything so much worse. And he was like, even their trip here just now, I didn't make it worse because I was bored. And I wanted you to get here.
That's why there was no other monsters, I guess.
No, but, like, I think that's
yeah, it is.
It's a cop-out reason.
Yeah.
Anyway, Belicom pipes in that, like, because I guess he was sliced. He's like, I can't be killed with a regular sword. I'm part of the triumvirate. So to kill one, you need to kill us all. And I'm like, well, that's a convenient thing to say.
But also what?
And also, are we sure?
Also what? Yeah, this is what I finished the book the second time I read it. Yes. And I was like, Kristen, when you read your part, can you special? Can you pay special attention to this part? Because I am confused. But he does say it. He literally says that.
Yeah.
But is it just a scaring him off kind of thing? Like, it feels so much more overwhelming if you had to get all three to the brink of death before either of them could die. You know? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I
guess we'll see in the next book.
Yes. Because, to be fair, actually, I'll have to bring this up when it comes up. I'll have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, the three of them are ready to fight. The three of them? There's four of them. Why did I say the three of them?
Because Carrion's useless.
So, four of them are ready to fight. And Saeris knows that, Oh, no, I meant the three of them, Madra, Belicon, and Malcolm. They're, blocking the four of them from getting to the Quicksilver pool, and they look poised to fight. That's what I meant.
Yes.
I knew I wrote three for a reason. But... yeah, so Saeris is like, shit, we need to get past them. And, we can't really go back into the labyrinth, so they're sort of stuck.
Yeah.
So Carrion steps forward to challenge Belicon and, insults him a bunch about what kind of dude would let his daughter be tortured, and that they're saving her life right now, so, she's not going to be under Malcolm's control anymore. And Saeris and Fisher are, mind-speaking at this point, and they're like, what the fuck is Carrion doing? He's gonna get himself killed. Mm-hmm. And they keep speaking to each other, and Fisher tells her that the coin that they are looking for is silver, because it burned Malcolm's hand when he caught it. So, Fisher remembers that moment. So... he's like, by that logic, if a little tiny coin burned his hand when he held it, obviously he can't be standing on it silver right now because he would be disintegrating. So, obviously, none of these coins are real. They're all fake.
Yeah. And you're like, are they an illusion? Are they actually, what is...
yeah.
What is real anymore?
Yeah. And... he said, the people of Gilithry also feel like... they also believed that putting a tiny bit of Quicksilver in each coin brought luck. So Fisher's like, you need to suss out the coin. And she's like, well, shit.
Yeah.
But she does listen, and she's like, well, it's none of these. Because they're all magic-y fake. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Carrion is, goading Malcolm into biting him. So Malcolm's like, well, all right. So he just has a lunch.
Stupid idiot.
And I'm like, if someone asks, says, bite me, go on. And you do, that's sort of moronic on your part.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So they watch as Malcolm drinks from Carrion, and they can't do anything about it. And they're like, oh, Carrion's dying, and they feel really bad. But then all of a sudden, Malcolm stops, and he doesn't understand what's happening. And Carrion tells him that his name used to be Carrion Dianthus. I don't actually know if that's how you say it. That's the name of... Dianthus is a flower, so I'm just going with it.
That's fair.
First son of Rurik and Amelia Dianthus. And Malcolm immediately knows he's been tricked into drinking Dianthus blood. But Saeris is like, what the fuck is this? I don't know what this means.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's like, that name Dianthus sounds familiar. And Fisher's just like, don't worry about that. Can you feel the coin? And obviously it's they liken this coin to a fish scale. It's the tiniest coin that they have. I'm thinking probably a dime. A 10 cent piece. And so he's like, can you feel it? And she's like, it's very, very faint, probably because it's very, very small. But she's like, it feels like it's back in the labyrinth. So he tells her to run, and she just does, while Madra and Belicon are distracted by the fact that Malcolm is like, I don't know what's happening to him, but he's sick.
He's not well.
He's not well. So
he's indisposed at the moment.
Yeah. He's indisposed, yes. So she's like, just runs through the labyrinth, and she can feel the Widow's Bane wearing off, which is problematic. Because, like, she's
also
got...
convenient.
Well, she's got broken ribs. She's got a bruise to the face. Like, she is in pain. And she says it's quiet in the labyrinth because the souls aren't chanting anymore. So she's like, what the fuck is that? Does that even mean? And she can hear the Quicksilver. It's talking to her, and she is just begging for it to help her. But it doesn't care about right or wrong or good or evil. It's like, why should I help you? And she just says, like, it gets really weird because she's like, I can't bear for him to die. And I'm like, I guess they all face imminent death.
Yeah.
Like, he's not injured right now, apart from, like, getting the shit beat out of him. But, like...
Yeah, I guess she doesn't have a whole lot of faith in the three of them versus the three of them.
I guess. And so she says, I can't bear for him to die. And I guess the Quicksilver knows that she's talking about Fisher, who is her mate. Like, he says, oh, the Fisher King, your mate, or whatever. And she's like, yes, my mate. So the Quicksilver says they will help for a small favor, but they don't say what the favor is. Just like
which is
in the future.
The worst.
I know, it's a terrible decision. But they said a small favor, not a big favor.
Seems pretty big. But yeah.
So she just is like, okay. So it's like, we're over here. And she comes up upon Morthil or Morthril or whatever it's called, the spidery demon thing. And the Quicksilver is whispering that it's inside, meaning she has to, like, dig into the Mothil body to get it.
And it's supposed to respawn.
I know! I was waiting I was like, oh my god, it's gonna respawn, it's gonna be smaller and faster, she's gonna have to kill it on her own. Yeah. None of that happens.
No.
She has to reach into its mouth, and she notices that she has tattoos all over her hands from admitting out loud that her and Fisher are mates. So now
she accepted the bond.
She accepted it, so now she's full of tats. So she reaches her hand into the mouth of the beast, finds the coin, pulls it out. But obviously Malcolm finds her and tells her to hand over the coin. I would just immediately have dropped it at that point onto the ground.
Yeah. He's not that fast.
Or like, I would have, like, bent and, like, stepped on it or something like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. It just has to touch the ground.
Yeah. And, like, she looks at him and she says he seems to be rotting from the inside, which is disgusting. Yeah. And then, of course, we get the infamous villain monologue. We have to have one. And he just... It's not a super big one. Like, it's not one of those ones that's endless on his part. But he talks about how fascinating he finds her and how maybe he'll keep her alive when this is all over to help him and give him another miracle. And I'm like, in my head thinking, another miracle? These are questions we don't have answers to yet.
But also...
Or is the Quicksilver moving the miracle? No. No?
Yeah. But it wasn't one to him. Yeah.
Well, then I don't know.
Me neither. But, like, she's super... Like, she's the only alchemist they know of. Yeah. So, yeah, maybe you should keep her.
Yeah.
Like, this is dumb.
It is dumb.
You don't have access to other alchemists because you're on this side and you can't go anywhere. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, she just tells him, she's like, a miracle. Like, all I can do is work with the Quicksilver, so I'm not super useful to you. And he's like, oh, you're ridiculous. You obviously haven't realized your true power yet. Like, you're ridiculous if you think that's all you can do. So we're like...
Do you think it's that she can, like, make Kingfisher heal? Like, that? Is that what he's talking about as her true power? Or is there going to be more to it?
I think
like,
there's going to be more to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I do think her being able to manipulate the Quicksilver inside of his body is going to be a thing. Obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know to what extent, because it does say, like, oh, he is us and we are him. So, like, I don't know if she'll be able to remove it, but I think she'll be able to, like, either fuse it with him so that he's not going crazy anymore, or do something to make it, like, render it useless when it's inside. You know what I mean? Something.
I do, but they're already doing something at the end of the book about it.
They are, but it's just holding it back. It's not a permanent solution.
I thought they take some out.
Yeah, they lessened it a bit. But they just said that it's like, I think they say at the end, it's not a permanent solution. It's just a better treatment than what Tilana was doing.
Yeah, but it is taking bits of it out. But the thing that Fisher said, or the Quicksilver said, is if it actually left him, he would die.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't think he's ever going to be free of all of the Quicksilver.
No.
That wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, so Malcolm, like, throws her against the wall and takes the coin forcibly from her hand. And then he points out all the runes on her hand that she just accepted as mate bonds. And he says, oh, look, they're earth, air, fire, water, brimstone, salt, and quicksilver. And he said, more power than any alchemist ever. And isn't the next book Brimstone?
Yeah.
So maybe the third book will be called Salt. He then remarks on her mate marks. And he says, like, he could smell her on Fisher the second Fisher came here, and knows that, like, Fisher fed from her. And then he tells her that he told Fisher that if Fisher fed from Malcolm once, he would release him and erase Gilithry from his memory. But Fisher wouldn't do it. Yeah. And having the silver around his throat, that special pendant that he had, meant that Malcolm couldn't touch him, like, couldn't force him or compel him to do anything. And said that his mom had spelled it especially for him, for protection. So, like, Malcolm really wants Fisher sexually.
Yeah.
And then he tells her that he's gonna kill her, and then Fisher will be his.
Like, you're supposed to use her. You capture them both, use her to get what you want.
Yes.
Villain 101.
So she slashes at him with her dagger, and he punches his hand through her stomach. Yeah. And then Fisher just tells her in his mind that he's coming, like, he's gonna come and get her and save her. But she knows that she's dying again.
Yeah.
100%. Beginning of the book she's dying, end of the book she's dying. It's just how she likes to live her life. And Malcolm is, like, close to her, whispering and teasing her about Fisher. And in the commotion, she takes the bag off of his belt that he put the coin on. So she, like, pickpockets him, which is, I assume, something she got real good at in her home city.
Yeah.
And then she does something stupid. She shows him the coin and then does a little flip so that it lands on the ground. And I'm like, yeah, it achieved the same end, but she should have just did it instead of, like, taunting him about it first.
Then, like, look, it's on the ground.
Yeah. And Malcolm is, like, so pissed he freaks out because the coin landed on the ground, which means Fisher can hurt him now.
Yeah, which is why I was confused that he was able to stab Belican.
Yes! That's true. We were going to talk about that, and then we didn't.
Yeah, I kind of brought it up a bit, but, like, yeah, it is, like, I just don't understand. Maybe that is why he was fine.
Oh, maybe. Anyway, so the souls are all chanting Anarath more, and then finally, like, the coin is on the ground, so they are put to rest. And Saeris manages to find the strength to stand, because even though she's got a gaping hole in her stomach and she's dying, she can still do hard things.
Yeah.
She finds the strength to stand with Solus, her god sword, and chops Malcolm's head off. Head.
Sorry.
And in the process, Solus sets Malcolm's body on fire, and then it rains fire all over the amphitheater, burning the amphitheater itself to the ground, which is convenient?
Yeah, I guess. I feel like, does some of that have to do with the coin touching the ground? Because, like...
Probably.
They all died in fire, and now their souls are being released. So is that, like...
symbolic of...
Yeah, I don't
something? Probs. So Fisher just mind speaks to her and tells her that Madra has fled, and Carrion is dealing with Belicon. But we don't know how. Like, we don't know what he does.
He doesn't. And I guess Lorith is too?
I guess. And she just passes out. And when she comes to, there's someone standing over her, but it isn't Fisher. It's Teladius, the guy who had lain on the edge of the Ripper the other day.
Last week, yeah.
I say the other day as if we're living in the book. The other day.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm saying last week as in last week when we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah. So Fisher shows up, and Tal, because that's what Fisher calls him.
Ideal. Easier to say.
Yeah, way easier. Tells him that she's gonna die. And Fisher obviously wants to save her by giving her some of his soul. But Tal is like, you can't do that. You already gave too big of a piece of your soul to Lorith. So, like, you can't give any more of it. And Saeris is like, no, I don't want you to give me any of your soul. And she tells him through their, like, little mind link that if he does, like, save her like that, she will never forgive him. So, like, he is physically able to, but he would, like, deteriorate and, like, he wouldn't be well if he did. Yeah. And Tal just says, like, she's fading, and if he wants Fisher to help, or if he wants Fisher to let him help, then, like,
he has to say it.
And so essentially, like, we sort of get that Tal has power like Malcolm and can turn her so that she is, like, a mature vampire, not a feeder. Like, she wouldn't be...
Yeah, kind of like Tal is. Like, she'd still be a reasonable...
Human. Not human.
Human. She wouldn't be...
Human-like.
Well, yeah. Vampire.
Yes.
But she wouldn't be a feeder. Yeah.
She wouldn't be mindless. But he's just waiting for her consent. And then Fisher just gives it on her behalf. Great.
Yeah.
And then she passes out again. And she wakes up again to the maze coming down, like the labyrinth, and her veins are on fire, and everyone is yelling at Fisher to make a shadow gate. And then she hears a weird voice telling her that he is the storm, and she is the peace, and not to drift far from the shore and to come back. And she says, like, I don't want to go. I want to stay with him. Mm-hmm. And the voice says it will grant her request, but it wants its favor. So it was obviously the Quicksilver, and it wants an audience with her. So she's like, okay. So, like, it's literally the pool of Quicksilver, and it drags her from Fisher's arms and into, like, the big pool. And I'm like, how did nobody notice the little snake of Quicksilver snaking its way along to grab her body?
Man,
I don't know either.
Just magnetic. She just gets...
Oh, maybe.
Like... Sorry.
It's listen. Hey. So she wakes up then, and there are two female voices talking about her. but they call her it. They're like, ooh, it's waking up. And, like, she sees them, and they look about 19-ish, and they're identical twins. And, like, they talk about boys and how they want to play with Fisher, but their dad won't allow it. They want a playmate of their own, but none have come to their Corcoran to
And by that, they mean they want to have sex with them.
Absolutely. Yes. They want sex, but their dad won't let them. And I'm like, can you imagine having to ask your dad for sex?
No.
That'd be disgusting. And I mean, like, can you imagine having to be like,
oh my God,
I
yes,
want a playmate.
No, we're not talking incest.
No,
here.
we're not. I meant, like, can you imagine having to ask your dad's permission to have a visitor over, knowing that that's what you want? Like, ugh.
No. Thank you for that.
Anyway, they ask, like, they're sort of very childlike, even though they're talking about wanting a playmate and stuff. Like, they're still very childlike. And they ask who Saeris' people worship more. Baal, one of them goes, me, Baal, and the other one goes, or me, Mithrin. And she gives a very political answer, like, of course, you're worshipped equally. How can we not, like, worship both of you? And she realizes that these are gods. And these two specifically are the ones that the sons in her homeworld are named after. Yeah. Which is very crazy.
Yeah. What are the chances?
Yeah. So they take her, they're like, our father wants to see you. So they take her to see their father. And she's like, shit, it's Zareth, the god of chaos. So
the worst one.
Yeah, the worst, quote unquote, the worst one. But, like, he's definitely not actually the worst one.
Yeah.
So he shows her, he, like, talks to her for a bit, and he's like, you know who I am? And she's like, of course. And he shows her, there's this big tree in the middle of his courtyard. And he tells her each leaf represents a realm. And he shows her that one branch is rotting. And he waves his hand, and the branch and the leaves on it disappear. And she's shocked because, like, those were several realms. Those were billions of people. And he just, like, wiped them away like they were nothing. Yeah. But he tells her, like, she's not the only alchemist in all of these worlds. There's actually quite a few. But when he consulted the Fates eons ago, he was intrigued by her and Fisher. And he saw the bond they would have, and he attempted to sway the Fates. And then he tells her sort of the whammy that she was supposed to have been born Fae in the same realm as Fisher, but Zareth intervened and had her born as a human in the other place that I forget. Yeah, me too. So, like, Fisher's mother was correct when she saw Saeris with Fae ears. She was supposed to be Fae. And Saeris asks, like, why would you do that? And he tells her that when two people like them meet, there's an energy. And the Fates say that their energy eventually causes the death of most of the tree, aka, like, the whole universe.
Wild.
And he says that, like, it's not them meeting, it's their moment that they become mates creates a spark. And the spark turns into something else, turns into something else, turns into something else, which causes the destruction of the tree. So, like, it's not their fault, but, like, their meeting has an impact.
Yeah.
And they are God-marked. Essentially, they are under Zareth's protection because the other gods wanted to just wipe the tree clean and start all over again. But Zareth knew that that would break his daughter's hearts, like getting rid of all these current realms. So instead, he's just deciding to roll the dice on them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So he tells her that in order for her to go back to the realm, and if she accepts Fisher as her mate, Zareth will actually sever her thread from the tapestry of fate meaning that none of the gods can see her or her fate. And, like, if she doesn't want Fisher to die, this is what she needs to do. Which I don't really understand the connection.
I guess he's saying he's seen what happens if she stays. Like, he's consulted the fates about what she would do if since he put her in the other realm. So now he's like, we'll just roll the dice and try something new, because I know Fisher's gonna die if you don't do anything to change who you are. That's all I can figure, but I really don't know.
Anyway, so he also tells her he's going to transform her into something never seen before, but she has to agree. So she does, and he just says, okay, good luck, bye. And then she...
Really, though?
Really. Because then she wakes up, and she's thinking of Fisher, but when she sits up, she is violently ill.
What?
And someone speaks to her and says it's called the Great Purge. It's a nice thing to say about somebody throwing their guts up. That's what I feel like I should call it from now on. Whenever my kids are sick, I'll be like, you're having the Great Purge.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's obvious. She thought it'd be Fisher. It's not. It's Tal, who is Malcolm's second. And he tells her that she should be able to eat again soon. Eat food again. And I'm wondering, like, is that a regular vampire thing? Do they all eat food? Or is that just a her thing?
I think that's just a her thing.
So how do they know that?
I don't know.
I don't either. And then he tells her she's a vampire, but not one they've ever seen before. So she gets up and walks over to a mirror, and she sees that she has fae ears now. Ooh. And they've looked her over and examined her, and they think she's about half and half. She's half vampire and half fae. So
whatever that means.
And to be fair, we've already solved the life expectancy issue, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Which is why I was saying it's not like it ends, like, it kind of ends in an HEA. Yeah. We could, like, kind of be happy with this.
We could. So she wants to see Fisher, but Tal reassures her that he's fine and he's around somewhere. And she asks, like, she's like, where are we? And he doesn't tell her, but asks, like, what she remembers about transitioning from, I guess, human to vampire. And she's like, nothing. And he's like, good, I put a block around your memories. I just wanted to make sure that it was all fine. And I'm like, why would you bring that up? That's silly.
Yeah, obviously she's going to try to break it or ask you to if you tell her. Like,
well, so that's the thing. So she does. She says, no, thank you. I want to remember everything. Like, can you take the block down?
Take that off.
And he does. And she remembers being pulled from the pool, like after she had the meeting with Zareth. And she remembers I don't know how she remembers lying in the bed for 3 days. She also remembers biting Tal and, like, I guess drinking from him?
Yeah, because I think that's part of the transformation part. Yeah. Like, you have to drink or you'll... Yeah.
And she sort of is like, oh my god, I'm sorry. And she feels like she should thank him, but she also really hates what he did. And I'm like, girl, you're alive.
Yeah, I just feel like you don't need to decide that right this second.
Yeah. So he just sort of says, like, he felt the same way with Malcolm, but Malcolm forced him to stay, and, like, Tal even tried to kill himself, but, like, Malcolm was like, nope. And after he tried to kill himself and was not successful, Malcolm forbade him from ever doing it again. So Malcolm had a really tight hold on him. Mm-hmm. So they finish their conversation. She goes to find Carrion, or not goes to, she finds him. I'm assuming maybe he, like, comes to visit her or something in the room.
Yeah.
And says, and he looks different. So he's way taller. He has canines and pointed ears. And turns out he's the heir to the Fae throne.
We heard there might be one in her realm.
Yes.
Originally.
Yes.
But I kind of started to think it once she was, like, making a sword for him. I was like, why would they make a sword for him? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. And then I was like, oh,
Good old Simon.
Yeah. I do love Simon.
So we learn that Fisher's dad brought Carrion to Zilverin when he was little with a bag of books to teach him about his heritage. And a woman named Orlena found him and raised him and just like passed him along. He was inherited through her family. So all of like her kids, they all were like his guardians. Mm-hmm. And they just taught him everything he needed in those books. And they waited for signs that the Quicksilver would open again so he could get home. And we then learned that Lorith had visited her before Carrion, so there must have been like a lapse between when Tal and Carrion were there, and told her that Carrion's blood is his dad's blood, obviously, which was actually the blood used to create Malcolm's curse in the first place. Normally, Malcolm would die immediately from drinking that family's blood, but he was super old, so he didn't. So it was like poisonous to him. And that's actually why Malcolm had Bellicon kill Carrion's parents, so that he didn't have threats to him. Yeah. Then Fisher comes in. And they just both of them are like, Carrion, get out. Yeah. And Fisher calls Saeris mate. Of course, she does too, like, no, mate. And she feels overwhelmed by all she had to tell him, but then she actually notices that Quicksilver is lessened in her eye. Yeah. And she said Taylana managed to find a way to dampen the Quicksilver, and the witch Isabel helped out too. So I guess this is what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I just thought that they said that they were able to get some out in that part, but maybe I just didn't read it right.
I don't know.
That's fine.
So he tells her he has to show her something, and he opens the curtains, and she figures out where they are. They are in Amontreath on the other side of the Darn. So, his fish...
Enemy territory.
Yes, they're in enemy territory. He tells her that when a Fae King dies, his heir takes over. Like, when he dies naturally. But... when he's killed, the one who kills him takes his place.
Hence Belladonna.
Yes. So
because he killed the king.
So Malcolm doesn't have an heir. So according to the vampire court, Saeris is the new queen because she killed Malcolm. And they are going to be coronating her in 2 days as the Queen of Sanisroth. Dun, Amazing. Dun, dun.
What's Danya gonna have to say to her now, bitch? She's a queen.
And she's half vampire. And she's half fae. So Danya can suck it.
Exactly.
So, we're gonna wrap it up. This book was life-changing. I loved it so much. It was fantastic. The beginning was a bit slow. We don't like Hayden. However, it's still great. And I am super, super excited for the next book to come out.
Yeah. I completely agree. It was really easy to get into. I feel like the author's going to make us like Hayden, which is fine.
No, it's not.
But I'm mad about it. And I feel like we're going to get Danya being less of a bitch in the next one, or maybe she'll keep being a bitch and we'll have Lane as the other girl. But yeah, I love the book so much. I basically read it and then listened to it all again. So kind of read it twice in the last month. I can't wait for the next one. I feel like there are a few tiny things that come up that I wonder if they're like mistakes that would have been edited smoother. Like when they talk about when Fisher went through the Quicksilver without his pendant, like, was he actually younger than 11? Because that's a fucking child. Why was he going through the Quicksilver at that young of an age? Yeah. So either needs to be explained more, or like, is there just some issues there? And then there's also like this whole thing about to kill one, you have to kill all. That just never came up again.
Yeah. I don't understand that at all.
And I think there was an issue with, like, some of the numbers about the 110 years. Like, people are saying that there was an issue there too. But anyway, like, it's just a few little things that I kind of do wonder if they do, like, they are re-releasing the book with, like, a new cover under an actual, like, it won't be independent anymore. So I wonder if there will be some changes to the book to kind of, like,
smooth it out.
Just little edits to smooth it out. And like maybe in the next book we'll get reasons for half of the shit that I find weird. Obviously we don't know yet.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, it's not really an issue. It's just kind of like makes you think.
Yes. Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. But yeah, love the book. Very good.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, 100%. And if you got here, I hope you read it, because it'd be kind of weird if you didn't. You listened to all of our 4 episodes on it and you just didn't read it.
Yeah.
But we also, if you did, we support you too. Thanks.
Yeah, we love you no matter what.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping it up for this week. If you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episodes, or if you have any book suggestions, please reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com, or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread and coffee.coread on TikTok.
So next week, we're actually going to be reading One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I think we talked about this book last week, maybe, for a second. But we're going to be doing chapters 1 to 9, so make sure to follow along. And if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.